Okay, so hi everyone. I believe I'm audible and visible to all of you guys. So please confirm if I'm audible and visible. Okay, so good evening, Anu, Raj, Karthik, everyone. Good evening. Okay, so just an update, guys. So I believe you must have received a notification from our side. So we have already updated your exam. I believe last date for this month exam is 16th. So please go and check your dashboard. You will be able to find out an exam and yes, try to attempt those exam. Now, so today and tomorrow, so I'll be talking about API, which is one of the most important chapter, one of the most important topic. It's a big topic, so I can finish that topic in one day as well. But yeah, I don't want to because everything depends upon the API. The entire backend depends upon the API. API itself is a very, very big chapter. The complete backend, like I said, depends upon API. And there are so many things to learn, so many things to explore, so many things to execute. So we'll take our own sweet time and again, we'll try to learn API in a comfortable manner. Uh, Starting from basic, but yes, we'll try to get into a very, very advanced, API discussions. So try to open up your VS Code, guys, and yeah. So I'll try to talk about a theory, and then I'll be talking about a complete practical, in a complete practical manner API. So API Super 30 May. Okay, okay. So shall we start, guys? Shall we start, everyone? Yes. Okay. Like I said, so it's a very, very important chapter, by the way. Your entire backend code depends upon this one. And many more things, even from a Python perspective, you will be able to understand if you understand API plus a system, plus how system communicates between a application. So first of all, in general, let's try to talk about a API. So API full form is what? API full form is basically application programming interface. This is what is called as basically an API. Now, let me write down a full form of this API. So application programming interface. This is the full form. Again, like very easy to understand, very easy to know. So anyone who can tell me like what exactly the API is and just in a layman manner. So I'm looking for this explanation in a layman manner. I'm not looking for a very hi-fi words or lines over here. So anyone who can tell me what this API is and what is the use of this API. Anyone who is having any idea about it? Yes, I'm waiting. So Raj is saying that enable to communication between a heterogeneous system in the world. Okay, homogeneous, heterogeneous, fine. Any other definition? So Rishabh is saying communication between a different software, communication between a computers. Venkatesh is saying, Veeresh is saying giving an access to other user via API. Okay, okay, fine. Anything apart from this one? Yes, no one? So Tabis is saying making connection between databases. No. Okay. Next definition, guys. Okay, Babo is saying layman example. Waiter is a. I mean, yes, I know from where this example is coming. So I heard about this example many times. So many of us can predict a chat GPT output because we are chatting with chat GPT since last 3 years or more. I'm looking for your definition. So what do you understand by API? Not this waiter example or this chef example. Everyone is aware about this. Okay. So basically, see, let's talk about this. Let's try to understand this API in a like a very simple manner, right? Which all of you will be able to even relate in day to day life, by the way. So here, so when we are talking about an API, right? So try to think in this particular manner that there are so many softwares out there, right? So many softwares out there, so many applications out there, and obviously every application is having databases, every application is having some sort of a business logic, every application is having, some sort of data transfer from one to another one, right? And again, so every application is not written in one programming language, right? Whether it's a front end, back end, middleware, whatsoever it is, or maybe it's models. So it's not written in a same framework, or maybe you can say same programming languages or same version, whatsoever you can say. So this is where this API comes into picture. So what it says that okay, I'm going to allow you, or I'm going to help you out in terms of establishing a communication between any system to any system, whether it's in a same framework or maybe it's in a different framework, by using a certain rule, right? By using a certain rule. So again, inside API, so obviously I'll try to come to a different type of the API. For example, a REST API. This is something that we are going to build, by the way. So when we say application programming interface, so it always try to works as a bridge, right? Bridge between a multiple application, or one, two application, or more application. Bridge. So whatsoever one application require from other application, they can try to get it, or maybe they can try to transfer it, right? So let's talk about maybe a transaction. So every day what we do, so every day we try to do a lot of transactions via UPI, right? Via UPI. So UPI is one of the famous one, even nowadays, even in other countries. So they have started adopting UPIs. France, I believe they have adopted, and couple of more countries have already adopted UPI. And in India, so almost all the transaction that we do on a day-to-day basis, small or mid-size, so obviously we try to do it via UPI. So let's say, basically, I generally use a GPay, right? Google Pay, by the way. So let's say I'm trying to use a Google Pay application. So I have GPay application over here in my mobile phone. This is my mobile phone, right? So I have a GPay application over here. Now, so GPay is not going to hold money for you, right? They have certain business, like, so where they are giving you an option for a wallet, so where you deposit those money in their wallet. But in general, let's talk about a transaction. So whenever, we have to make some sort of a transaction, so GPay, what it will do, so let's say I would like to do a transaction of maybe 100 rupees. So I have to do a transaction of 100 rupees, right? So I will try to open up my GPay. After opening up my GPay, so what I will do, so I will try to, feed a mobile number, or maybe like a, mobile number, or maybe a UPI ID, or maybe I will try to scan the QR code, something like that I will try to do. Now, once I'm going to do this, right? So I have to send, let's say, 100 rupees to Raj, right? Let's say I have to send 100 rupees to Raj. So maybe I'll try to enter Raj mobile number, or UPI ID, or QR code, or whatsoever it is, right? I'll try to basically like enter this one. Now, so what will happen? So once I'm going to scan this one, so obviously it will try to connect with the UPI server, basically. So this server is been maintained by Government of India, right? So this server and this project has been created by Government of India. So basically it will try to connect to the UPI server. Now UPI server is a centralized system. So again, in our country there are so many banks, right? There are so many banks, basically, where you can go and you can deposit your money, and your actual money will not exist here, or maybe here. So your actual money will be available inside a bank, some or the other banks. Now bank wise, there are HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, IDBI Bank, Canara Bank, Kotak, all those banks are available. So multiple banks are available. So where you are going to keep your actual money, right? So maybe I can, like, draw over here. So let's say I have HDFC, right? I have basically ICICI, or maybe I have like a IDFC, right? Yes. Or maybe I have a Kotak. Yeah. So again, there are hundreds of banking system which is available in India itself, right? Forget about the outside, but yeah, in India itself, there are so many banks which is available. So obviously, this UPI server can go and they will be able to connect with HDFC, ICICI, IDFC, Kotak, or anyone. Depends upon the QR scan that you have done or UPI ID, because everything will be linked automatically to a UPI ID. And whenever we try to give a UPI ID, so you must have observed that there will be XYZ at the rate of OK ICICI, OK HDFC Bank. This kind of a suffix you will be able to find out, right, in every UPI ID. So eventually it converts everything on a UPI ID. So even if I'm going to enter mobile number, so it will go and check into the database that with this mobile number, what and all UPI ID is basically registered. Same goes for QR code. So technically UPI ID, right? So now with the help of this, UPI server will be able to understand that, okay, so this user basically belongs to HDFC, to whom you are trying to transfer money, right? To whom you are trying to transfer the money. And then it also knows that okay, so basically your bank is basically ICICI. So from your bank you have to transfer money to HDFC. So HDFC is basically like a is a bank, so where you have to transfer a money from your bank basically, which is ICICI, right? So UPI server already knows that, okay, so your bank is available, your bank is like ICICI, and basically a person to whom you are trying to send our money, so their bank is basically HDFC. Okay, now, so transfer should happen from ICICI to HDFC, right? As per the input that you have given in a middle. So there will be UPI server, so which is taking a whole responsibility of a transfer, authorization, responsibility, each and everything. And once transfer will be done, so it is going to send a notification to a server, and then it is going to send a notification to a basically or feedback to a GPay, and eventually you will be able to see that transaction is being successful, right? Transaction is been successful. This is something that you will be able to see it in your app. Very, very simple. Now, so this is just a story which I was talking about, right? Just a plain simple story. The actual thing which I'm like I would like to explain you over here is that let's imagine that GPay, not imagine, in reality. So GPay belongs to Google, UPI belongs to government of India, and these banking systems are basically like belongs to some private or public entity, right? Some private or public entity, so they basically have a hold of these things. Okay, it's fine. So owners are different. Not just owners are different, so basically every system is having its own digital infrastructure. So GPay is having its own digital infrastructure, UPI server is having its own digital infrastructure. HDFC, ICICI, IDFC, or maybe Kotak or SBI or any other banking system. So all of them is having their own servers, and they have their own digital presence, their digital identity basically, right? So they have their own basically a digital identity. Now, so when Google will try to create and maintain their own system, they are not going to ask Government of India or maybe HDFC that whatsoever framework that you are using, I'm going to use the same framework, right? For example, so let's say HDFC have used Java for a backend, ICICI have used maybe a Python for a backend, Google might have used a Node for a backend, and then maybe this UPI server maintained and managed by government of India, so maybe they have used some sort of Ruby or something, right? So everyone have used their own technology stack, everyone has technically used their own framework to write a code, right? To write a code. And because if there is a digital infrastructure, it's all about hardware and code, right? So hardware is a place where things will run, from where it will be able to see the compute, it will be able to get the compute. And software layer will be having a logic, business logic, right? Piece of code, by the way, functions, classes, all those things that we have been going through so far. Okay. So here, Google, Government of India, and all of these banking systems. So every system will be independent of each other, right? Independent of each other. So, but to make this transaction happen, so obviously you have to communicate. communicate from one system to another system. If Google Pay will not be able to connect to a UPI server, you will not be able to make any kind of a transaction. If UPI server will not be able to connect to HDFC or ICICI and all the banking system, there will be no transaction. If ICICI will not be able to connect with the HDFC server and send a feedback to a UPI server, there will be no transaction, right? So, and every system is written in a different framework by using a different programming language, and that's a real problem. That's a real problem, right? So I have to establish a communication. I have to find out a common ground by which I will be able to transfer a data, right? So I will be able to get send a request. I will be able to get a response. Then only I will be able to establish a communication, right? Because in this entire digital world, like communication is required. If it is not there, you will not be able to build any kind of a business application. Plus, you can't go and put a restriction on anyone that my digital infrastructure is using this technology stack. So you are supposed to use the same. You can't force them, right? You can't force them. So this is where this application programming interface comes into picture. So here, whenever Google will have to communicate with a government of India UPI server, it is going to use a standard predefined format, right? Standard predefined format, and by which it will be able to reach out. See, now just try to think in this manner. So if I'm talking about a GPay, right? So GPay logic must have been written and it must be running on some server. When I say server, simply means that computer. So what if I will be able to reach out to that computer, right? Computer. So every computer will be having an IP address, right? Every server will be having an IP address. So I will be able to reach out to that computer. Now from that computer, I will be able to reach out to the port number, because every service is going to take its own port number. So I'll be able to reach out to the port number in that computer, and then in on that particular port number, if something is up and running, right? Something is up and running, so maybe with the help of some URL, some path, if I'm able to access it, if I'm able to transfer a data, if I'm able to pass a data, if I'm able to send a request and get a response, my work will be done, right? My work will be done. So this is where what people have said, that let's do one thing. So let's try to create this as a kind of a neutral or set of the rule which can be understood by each and everyone, right? Which can be understood by each and everyone. I mean, like, it should be framework independent, it should be a language independent. And what is that, by the way? So I think we all are, everything is going to happen over the internet, right? Everything is going to happen over the internet. So over the internet, the philosophy or the fundamental of IP address and port number, it's a neutral one, or HTTP or HTTP request, right? So hypertext transfer protocol, this is what we used to say, right? Or hypertext transfer protocol secure, HTTPS, this is what we used to say. So that is basically like IP address. IP address means I'm hitting some system, that's it, right? Hitting some system. Port number means some process in that system I'm trying to hit. So if I'm able to reach out to that system and a particular port number, and if I know what is getting executed on that port number, obviously I will be able to access it, right? I will be able to access all the logics, methods, classes, whatsoever I want, I will be able to access it. So on this philosophy, basically, they have designed a different kind of things with respect to API, right? So basically, inside this, you will be able to find out that API. This is the definition of API, by the way: application programming interface, like a bridge, right? That, okay, just try to like come on a common ground, and then with the help of the set of the rules, try to access each and everyone's data. Now, so inside this API, uh, people have basically created something called as REST API, representational state transfer. Basically, what does that mean? So REST API technically is a like a one type of a API, or REST API is one particular style of designing a API over HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol. So over HTTP, basically. So REST API, basically, this is what REST API technically says, that I'm going to I'm going to give you a rule, set of the rule by which you will be able to design it, right? By which you will be able to design it. So here you can say that all REST APIs are APIs, but all the APIs are not REST APIs. So there are a different kind of APIs that you will be able to find out in this entire world. The things that we are going to learn over here is basically a REST API, right? A REST API. So anyone knows that what and all different kind of APIs which exist in this entire world apart from REST? Anyone who can take some name? Okay, so Raj is saying that WebSocket, then Babu is saying GPRC, okay, GRPC. Hmm. Okay, okay, GraphQL, fine, yes. So here, if I'll have to talk about basically API, right? So there are multiple, like API is a common term. API is something by which you will be able to establish the communication. So which we are going to see eventually, like in some time. But along with like inside this API, so API, like I said, API is a common term. So what and all different kind of a API which is available. So let me give you some sort of a idea about that, so that you should not think REST API always as a API. It's one type of the API. So here, if you will try to understand the API, well, this line is little bit tilt. Okay. So here, when you will try to understand the API, so you will be able to see something called as local APIs, right? So local API. And what is that? So basically like Python API, Java API, OS API, library API. Then network wise, there are APIs which exist, API. And inside that, so you will be able to find out a REST API, representational state transfer, SOAP API, GraphQL, gRPC, WebSocket, RPC, webhook, MQTT, generally used in sensor, FTP, file transfer protocol, socket API. Along with that, so there are other category of API, hardware API. So here you can say that there can be printer API, camera API. So these are the guys different kind of a API which exist in this entire world. What we are going to explore today is a REST API, by the way, right? So what is basically a REST API? SOAP basically means that simple object access protocols. This is the meaning of a SOAP. You will be able to basically find out. So today I will try to understand that what is a REST API. But this API world is very big, and it is basically a backbone of a communication. So whenever we have to access one thing in a heterogeneous manner or maybe in a homogeneous manner, in both the cases, this is something which is going to come into picture, and it is going to help you out in terms of getting all of these detail. Now, when we talk about a REST API, right? So whenever we are going to talk about REST API, so what is this REST API? So REST API is been designed over a HTTP, so hypertext transfer protocol, that okay, reach out to a particular system, give a port number, and then maybe bind it with the route, and you will be able to access something. So likewise, if I'll talk about a grpc, if I'll talk about a soap or graphql, so all of these been designed on a different philosophy, not on the http itself, right? And this has been like done for a different kind of a work, or you can say for a different purposes. Now here, So if I have to talk about HTTP method for REST API, representational state transfer, so there are a couple of method which exist that we are going to even explore in a practical manner. So there is a get method, there is a post method, there will be a put method, there will be a patch method, by the way, there will be delete method, right? So these are the method that you will be able to find out. Now, what is the meaning of a get in general? So get is been generally used for reading our data. So read the data. What is the purpose of put basically? So sorry, post, create data. What is the purpose of put? So replace the complete data. What is the meaning of a patch, by the way? So update selected, update selected data, let's say. And delete means delete, simple wipeout, right? So delete the data. So these are the HTTP method, so which is available eventually inside a REST representational state transfer. You will be able to find out. So HTTP method get, post, put, patch, delete. Now again inside that many things comes into picture, and we will try to explore one by one, one by one, each and everything, so that we'll be having a better understanding even in a practical manner, right? Because practical is something which is eventually required, right? Now here, basically, what we can do. Basically, you will be able to find out a term called as client and server. So, client simply means that from a system from where we are trying to send a request. That is something called as client. And when we talk about a server, so server who is going to serve. Server means like where actual compute is going to happen. That is something called as server at the end of the day. As we'll move forward, so obviously we'll be having better understanding over each and everything. Along with that, so whenever you try to use something inside a computer, so you used to get a lot of different kind of a status code. So let me write down, which is again very important. So HTTP status code. So what is the meaning of each and every status code, and how you should interpret all of those status code? So let me create a beautiful table for you. So code and meaning. So here, if you receive 200, 200 simply means that your request is successful. Very, very simple, right? Then you will receive sometime 201, right? So 201 means resource created. CREATED. Yeah, created. Fine. TED. Yeah. Now there is something called as 204. So here, successful, success, but no response body. This is what it means. Then 400. 400 means invalid request. So whatsoever you are trying to request, it is basically invalid. So I'm writing all of this code over here so that we can try to do experimentation while doing a practical, and obviously we'll try to get one or the other code, so that we can come back and then we can try to refer that what is the meaning of this particular code. So that's the reason, so I'm trying to write it down in a very first place before even jumping into the practical situation. So this is the meaning of a 400. Now, what is the meaning of a 401? So there is something called as 401. Authentication required or invalid. Invalid. Then there is something called as 403. You will be able to see. So authenticated but not authorized. Authenticated but not authorized. Then there will be 404, the famous one. The resource not found. Page not found, resource not found. Then there will be 409, conflict or duplicate. 422, request validation failed. Then there will be 429. Too many requests. And then there will be 500. Again, famous one. Internal server error. Okay. So these are basically code, right, that you are going to receive at some point of a time. You must have seen 404, 200, I believe you have also seen that, and even 500. So these are some of the very, very famous code that we used to like receive, right? So that we used to receive. But along with that, so obviously you will be able to see other as well. So okay, we have a status code over here, we have this method over here, and now we understand that what is the API family and what and all things which comes under API, and what is the common meaning of an API, right? So this is something that we are able to understand over here. Now, so unless and until we are not going to write some sort of a code, obviously it's very difficult to digest any of these theories that we are going through. So let's go ahead and let's try to do some sort of a practical. So here what we are going to do a practical for this one. So we are going to create a new environment. So what we can do over here, so we can try to create a new environment by calling python hyphen m venv venv. You can give a different environment name as well if you want. That's completely fine. So this is going to create a new virtual environment for me. And in every project going forward, so you are supposed to create a new environment so that it is going to create a independent folder for you, and inside that folder, so it is going to keep each and every like installation that you are going to do for this particular project. So fine, this is our virtual environment that we have created for this particular project. And here, so if you will go inside this virtual environment, keyboard interrupt, no, I have not. V environment, fine. So here is a V environment you will be able to find out. And then inside that, you will be able to find out basically a script folder. And inside that, you will be able to see python.exe. I was expecting that it should give me activate is not recognized as the name of the. Let me do once again. Hmm. Okay. So now it is able to create a proper environment. Now, what it does, so what is the meaning of this environment creation, by the way? So see, it has created one VENV based on my instruction. So if you're going to give some different name, it is going to take that different name, and then it is going to create that particular folder. Now, what this folder actually does and how this folder is going to help me out. So for example, let's say I'm working into 10 different projects. Now, in some project, there is some different requirement. For example, I'm working on a deep learning project. So maybe I need a TensorFlow. I'm working on a computer vision project, some other deep learning project, and where I need basically PyTorch. Uh, so here again, even in case of a TensorFlow, even in case of Python, so I technically need a different version of a Python, or maybe a TensorFlow, maybe a NumPy, Pandas, SciPy, and all those things, right? So it's not a good idea to unnecessarily clutter a single space where you can try to install all the dependency. So keeping that in mind, what we do, so we always try to create a project specific environment. Now, whatsoever it is going to install, so it is going to install always inside that particular folder. For example, so here it has created this environment where in my current directory, so as you can see, this is my D drive, and then API super 30 May, this is the folder name which I have given. Inside that, it has created this particular folder. So technically in this folder, only I'm going to basically use it, and whatsoever I'm going to do it, it will exist only inside this particular folder. Now, how do we activate this virtual environment? Let's try to understand that part as well. So here, if you're going to expand, you will be able to see something called as a script folder. So now here you will be able to find out there is a command called as activate, right? So you can just try to call activate. So you have to go into basically this virtual environment, and then from there you have to go into a script as capital always, and then you have to basically call and activate. And once you are going to call activate, it is going to basically activate your environment. So whenever you will try to execute a code, so it will try to take all the dependencies, right? All the dependencies, Python based dependencies, it is going to take it from there itself. So you can try to download the library or install the library independently. This is the meaning of a VNV. Now, how to activate? Let me activate that. So what I will do, I'll try to get into a VENV. So I'm my current directory PWD is basically this one, right? So from here I can get into VENV, right? Slash basically S capital. So SCRIPTS scripts slash ACTIVAT activate. And then here you will be able to see this notation that v environment is virtual environment is basically activated. Whatsoever name you are going to give for a virtual environment, it is going to create a folder with that name. This is how what it means, by the way. So everything is very logical. Now, here, what we can do. So once I'm able to activate this virtual environment, now if I'm going to install something, for example, I need a fast API. So what I will do, pip install fast API. So this is something which I need, by the way, in my project basically. So I have to use a fast API, and I have to create an API, right? So here you will be able to see that I have called pip install fast API, and it has basically installed it. And now if I'll go and check, so it has installed a fast API in a library folder side package. You will be able to see a fast API, and then whatsoever things are required with respect to a fast API. For example, Pydantic was required, annotation was required, a Singai is required. So each and every dependencies also it has installed, right? It has installed where only inside this particular folder, not in something generic, right? And that too for this particular project itself. So this is what it does, right? So whenever we are going to install something, so it will be installed here itself. You can manually go and delete if you want, and everything is happening in your local system only, right? Everything is happening in your local system only. Very simple. Make sense, guys? Everyone? Yes. So what is the meaning of a VNV, and then how do we create it? Yeah. You can try to use UV. You can try to use like a pip. It's completely fine. So UV is like they used to claim that they are a bit faster. I mean, faster is a second priority. So they resolve dependencies in a better manner as compared to a pip. This is what they used to claim, right? For example, so here I have just called fast API, pip install fast API, and what it has done, so it has resolved all the dependencies and all the dependent library it has installed. So sometime what happens, so sometime maybe pip will not be able to install, so it is going to give you an error that at the time of execution that you don't have this or that. So you have to go and manually install it. UV try to resolve it automatically. This is where UV is better, but again, you can use any of these things. It's completely your choice. Now, so how I'm able to install this like fast API? Maybe I can go and check as well. So pip show fast API. So now it is going to tell me that name fast API version is this, summary this, and here. So you will be able to go and you will be able to check that has been installed, right? So fast API has been installed. Okay. So once this has been installed, what we are going to do, so let's try to create our very first API. So close this one. Yeah, close this one. And here, so I'm going to create a new file called as main.py file. I'm going to create over here. Yeah, I'm going to create over here. Now, inside this main.py file, what I'm going to write. So first of all, I'm going to import each and everything which is required. So from fast API, import fast API, right? So this is the import that you have to done. So here we have done a library import. Now, once this library import is available inside my system, so then I'm going to create an object of a fast API. So object of fast API, I'm going to create it. So this app which I have created, or the app variable which I have created over here. So it's nothing but a variable of a fast API class, or object of a fast API, you can say. Okay, fine. Now here, so let's say I'm going to write some kind of a function. So def, def, and then test, right? I'm going to write this particular function. Now, basically, what this function does, so it returns something. RETURN returns something, right? So here it is going to return, let's say, some sort of a method, some sort of a method, sorry, some sort of a string that I am just testing, right? So this is something that it is going to, let me never so. Okay. So here, still it's showing me. Okay. Okay. So I'm just testing. So this is something which I have written, control S. Now, if I'm going to execute this main.py file, so for example, if I would like to execute this Python file, so simple Python main.py file. And yeah, so once I'm going to basically execute this one, so whatsoever will be available inside this file, it is going to execute. For example, I have written this test function, and let's say I'm going to call this test function now, calling this test function. So whenever I'm going to execute this, it is going to execute this test function, and then it is going to show me the return. Whatsoever return, it is going to give it to me. So anyone who can tell me why it is not showing me this return? I'm looking for this. I am just like a testing. This is something which I'm expecting. Yes. Anyone? I'm just trying to call. It is not giving me any kind of a error. But yeah, so neither it is trying to, give me a return. Capture in variable and print it. API path we have to give. Forget about API. Okay, let me remove this one as well. So, I mean, like, it's not API, right? I've just given the function and like a return. That's it. Yes, print a statement. Okay. So let's say I'm going to like a print over here that I am testing. Fine. Execute. So I'm testing. This is something which I'm able to get it. So obviously, if you have to get something in a console, so you have to write the print. Let me write down a return over here. Return over here. So I am testing. Fine. Okay. Fine. Anyhow, I'm able to call this function. That's not an issue. And from my local, so I'm able to call this function. So this function is available in this file. And from my local computer, I'm able to execute this particular function. That's completely fine. Yeah, that's completely fine. But this is what we have been doing since a very, very long time. I don't want this. This is not my requirement. My requirement is very different, by the way. So my requirement says that right, not from here. I don't want to access this function from here. So I would want to access this function maybe from some other program, maybe from some other, uh, like a simple terminal, right? So let's say if I'm going to open up my terminal over here, and from this terminal, I would like to access this, or from command prompt, I would like to access this particular function. So will I be able to like do it? Will I be able to access this function from my command line, or maybe from my browser, maybe from some Java program, maybe from some other Python program itself, will I be able to access it as of now in this particular state? Yeah. Okay. So answer is no. Then what I'm supposed to do? That's the next question. Yeah, what I'm supposed to do, because function is available over here and it's completely fine, I'm able to access here, but my requirement is to access this from some other program, from some maybe like a command line, or maybe from some different Python program itself. How I will be able to access it? Yes, how I will be able to access it? So Tabi saying that decorate with endpoint. What kind of an endpoint? What is the meaning of that endpoint? How I will be able to create that endpoint? Yep. So Raj is saying that create an API and expose this function to the outer world. Okay, create a route location of the method. Location of the method. Okay, okay. So let's try to do this. So this is where this fast API comes into picture. So this is a framework basically. So this is going to help you out to create an application, a kind of application, so which can be accessed by some other program in this entire world. This is where fast API comes into picture. So now what I can do, so I can simply go over here and then I can try to write this one. So app, which is nothing but my object of fast API. So technically I'm using fast API, right? So app dot get. So get is one of the method which I have written, get, post, put, delete, patch. So here app dot get, and then I have to give something like this, a route, right? App dot get and then slash. This is something which I'm going to write. It simply means that anyone who will be able to access this system, or anyone who will be able to reach out to this particular system, and somehow if they will be able to reach out to my program, they will be able to execute my test function, and whatsoever my test function is returning, they will be able to get it. How? Let's try to understand that particular part. So I can remove this one, it is not required by the way. So here app.get. Now how I will be able to execute this? Any idea guys, how I will be able to execute? So shall I write python main.py file, and will I be able to execute it, or I should do something different over here? Okay, so Anu is saying that UV corn. What is the meaning of this UV corn, by the way? Any idea, anyone? What is this UV corn? Yeah. So it starts the API server. Okay. Yeah, that's true. So basically, there is something called as UVcorn, and what it does. So Fast API is a framework, right? So with the help of this framework, I will be able to create an application. But every application, to run that application, right? So they need a server. So this is where UVcorn comes into picture, and it is going to help you out in terms of spinning the server means a small machine basically, so which will up and running, right? And inside that, so there will be an application is basically fast API application, which will be up and running. So here, to run this application, I'm going to write a command called as UVcorn. After that, I'm going to write a file name. So my file name is what? Main, right? So main, I'm going to write, and file name is not supposed to be main all the time. It can be my name, it can be your name. So instead of main, you can write any other name that is going to work. So here UVcorn and your file name you have to write. And then after that, so you have to write this variable name. This variable name is app, which I have given. You can give my name, your name again, right? So any kind of a name. So that object name you have to give. So if my app name is app, I'll give app. If my app name is Sudhanshu, I'll give Sudhanshu over here. So here UVcorn main app and then hit enter. So it will go to this main file, and then under this object whatsoever is been created, so it will try to expose it, right? It will try to expose it basically in a server. So it will up and running infinitely, I mean, unless and until you are not going to terminate it. So it will up and running over the server. Now let's say I will come and I will try to add some more piece of the code. So again and again, I'll have to come and execute UVCon main app. To avoid it, you can write dash dash reload. So that what it will do. So whenever you are going to update this file, you are not supposed to run UVCon main app. Simply you can go and test it. It will do all the job for you. So just write UVCon main app reload. And as you can see, so I have written this, right? So here it is giving me information that will watch for a changes in this directory just because of reload, right? It will keep on watching. UVCon runs on this particular address, right? It's a HTTP, right? HTTP. So what is this address that we have? So address is basically 127.0.0.1. So basically this is my computer or local host, right? This is my own computer. If it is running on some other computer, so it is going to give an IP address of that particular computer. And for the same computer, it is always going to be localhost. And then here, I have not given a port number. I have an option to give a port number as well. Going forward, we'll try to like even change the port number. You can give any port number. That's okay. It is going to run it. So basically, it has given me 8,000 port number. It simply says that go to this URL and whatsoever will be available, it is going to show you, right? So let's go. Let's try to go to this particular URL and let's try to see that what is available at this particular URL. So here it is showing me that I am testing, right? I am testing. So at this URL, if I'm going to inspect it, right? So network, re-execute, right? And it is telling me that, I'm going up. So I just hit this URL and then it is trying to give me I am testing, right? I am testing, I am testing, I am testing is something that it is trying to give it to me. Now how it is able to give me this I am testing, and if you'll go inside your this one, you will be able to see that it is telling me 200, 200, 200, 200, right? It is giving me 200, 200, 200. 200 means 200, the first one. So request is successful. So it is giving me 200, 200, 200, basically 404. So sometime when it is not able to find out. But yeah, so like 200 it is able to give it. 400 is giving for this one dev tool. It is not able to find out. So 200, 200, 200, and I'm able to get I'm testing, I'm testing. So technically, what I'm trying to show you that I had a function over here, right? I had a function over here, and now I'm able to access this function from my browser, right? So browser is having some completely like a different technology. Everything is different. I'm able to access it from a browser. Now, so maybe I can try to take this one and I can try to open up my command prompt or like, Linux git bash, let's say, and then curl this one. See, even from my command line, I'm able to access it. I'm just writing curl and then I'm trying to hit this particular URL. And then I'm testing is something which I'm able to get it. So I'm able to access from this one as well. So I'm able to execute my Python function from here or from basically a browser, or I would say even from some other programming language like Java or any other framework, I will be able to access the same function. Yeah, I will be able to access the same function. Very, very simple, right? Very, very simple. So this is what happens, right? This is what happens when you are going to expose something as a REST API. So this is my REST API. Now here, so this REST API is trying to serve this particular function at slash. Slash means IP address, port number, right? IP address, port number, and then at that place, this function is available. Let's suppose I don't want to make this function available at this one, means at a default like home tab, basically. So I want someone to access it at this URL, at sudo URL, SUDH. So now if you will go, so it's reloading, right? It's reloading automatically. That's the meaning of like a reload, and then shutting down and then waiting for application shutdown, waiting for application startup completed. Okay, now close it. Now here, so this is a same function, but I have just changed this like a route, right? I have just changed this route. Now if I'll go back, now if I'll go back, and if I'll try to access it, detail not found, right? Because at this default one, it's not available. So where it is available? It is available at SUDH. So see, when I'm giving SUDH, yes, I'm able to access it. And from everywhere, I will be able to access it. So now, likewise, I can try to give basically, let's say, SUDH slash ABC slash RAJ slash, slash XYG. So I can try to give my own custom path, and only at that custom path, my function will be available. So for every function, I can try to give my own custom route, basically. Own custom route I can try to give, and only at that route, that function will be available to everyone, basically, to everyone. So for example, now this test function is available at what route? So test function is available at what happened? It is very disturbing. I think I will restart my system and I'll just try to remove this one completely. Okay. So at this route, now this function will be available to all of us. So now if I'll go here, right, at this route, and then obviously at this route, this entire function, test function will be available. SUDH ABC Raj XYG. I think it has not reloaded once again because of wind surf. Okay, now it's reloaded. Okay, so I'm testing. So now it is available at this particular route. So what I'm trying to show you over here is that you can define whatsoever route that you want, and your function will be available only at that particular place. Make sense, everyone? Yes, make sense to all of us? Yes. Okay. Fine. So that's cool. Very simple, right? Very simple application we have written. So now we have to write very complex one. So this is just a start. But before getting into that, you have to understand a couple of more thing before we'll jump into like technically complex things. So here, let's say basically we have a route, and at this route, this is something which is available. Now let's just talk about this 8,000, this one. Nothing I'm able to get. So here, just try to type DOCS, 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 DOCS. So here, what Fast API does, right? What Fast API does. So let's say if I have a multiple APIs which I have created, so I'm able to test those APIs from here, right? From here, I'm able to test it. From browser, I'm able to test it. There's a tool called as Postman. From there, I will be able to test it. And again, from any programming, so programming like a language, I will be able to call it, and then I will be able to test it. So there are hundreds of ways from where I will be able to test all the API. But the beauty of Fast API is that it always gives you its own, I would say, UI interface where you can go. You can try to see all the APIs. By the way, you will be able to see all the APIs that you have created in one single place, right, in a very beautiful manner. And you will be able to even test it from there itself, right? You will be able to test it. For example, Sudhanshu, Sud ABC Raj XYG. So this is available. I can click on try it out. And now after trying it out, so I can click on execute. So once I click on execute, so see, it is executing this one as a curl, or a request URL is this, right? And then response body. So response 200, response body is what? It's a I am testing, right? I am testing. So very simple, right? Very simple. This is what it is going to give you. Along with that, so it try to give you some meta information as well. So content length. So what is the length of this entire content is 15. Content type is either application or JSON, means string or JSON. Date is basically like now. So GMT time it is trying to showcase. Server is basically UVCon. So UVCon is something I'm trying to use it as a server. Very simple. So this is called as Swagger UI interface. So basically, Fast API people have given a particular name to it, and this that is called as Swagger UI. So this is basically the things that you are looking at is a Swagger UI. Not just that. So here, what you can do, so you can even click on this Open API JSON. Now here it is going to show you basically all the information about your API. So open API like ID, title, fast API path. So what is the path? So this is the path of a API. get. So what you will be able to get it, each and everything, it is going to give you in a JSON format, right? So this is basically called as open api.json. So wherever you require something in a JSON format, you can try to even use it, and maybe you can try to use this one to transfer information from one team to another team member, right? Apart from that, so basically here docs is one. There is something called as redocs, REDOC, right? Redoc. So technically, this redoc generally gives you a detail, documentation, right? Detailed documentation for each and everything. As of now, it is not giving because like that's a test function which I have created. So when I'm going to create more and more, so again I'm going to show you that what redoc is trying to give it to me, right? What redoc is trying to give it to me. So redoc technically gives you a proper documentation so that you don't have to go and create a documentation. Fast API is going to create a documentation for you and then it is going to give you. So this is a basic, right? This is the basic, and we are able to create our very first API, and we can see it over here. Now I can go and I can try to create multiple things in the same place, right? Multiple things I can try to create, and then I can try to basically test it. So for example, there is a function called as courses, courses, right? So we are selling courses basically. So I would like to create a function so which is going to return all the courses. Not an issue at all. So get courses is a function which I have created, and which is going to return what? RETURN, return what? A list of the courses. So let's say a list of the courses is Gen AI, or maybe like Python, and then let's say ML, something like that. So this is one of the API which I have created, and then I would like to basically, so app dot, the above line is very disturbing for me. So app.get and then slash courses courses. So anyone who is going to hit this particular path, so they will be able to get a return of this particular courses. Very, very simple, right? So they will be able to get a return of this particular courses. Okay, let's go ahead and let's try to do it. So maybe I can do it from here. So here curl slash courses courses. So courses. That's a path, right? Courses. Okay. So here it is not. Okay. So here we have a courses. Now, if I'm going to like click on try this out, execute. So I will be able to get basically this one. Yeah. I will be able to get technically this as a list. I can even try this out. So courses, right? So courses. It should work even from here. COUR spelling. I have not done any kind of a spelling mistake, right? Yeah, now it's giving. Maybe that time it has not reloaded the server. GenAI, Python, and ML. So yeah, everywhere it will give you the exact same thing. So I'm able to access something at a particular route. Now, so here we are able to access something at a particular route. That's completely fine. And we have seen that that same thing is happening even over here. Now let's say I would like to create a function. So where you know def, and then here so get student, and then when you would like to execute this function, so you have to pass some data. Unless and until you are not going to pass some data, it is not going to execute it. For example, so get a student, so to get the student detail, so you have to basically give a student, so you have to basically give a student ID. So unless and until you are not going to give a student ID, and that too you have to give a student ID in a integer format, so it is not going to give you any kind of a information. So once you are going to give a student ID, then it is going to give you return, let's say RETUR, and return it is going to give it to you. So what kind of a return it will be giving you? So basically it is going to give you maybe like a student underscore ID is equals to basically what? So is equal to that ID that you are going to provide. Simple. Whatsoever you are going to give as like entering. So I'm just trying to return the same thing. But yes, as this function, as you have written this function, and this function will not execute itself unless and until it is not going to get a student ID. So now to execute this function, so let's say I'm going to write app dot get, right? App dot get, and let me create a route, student, student route. But I have to pass even a student ID. Unless and until I'm not going to pass a student ID, it will not be able to basically execute this function. So what I can do, I can write a curly braces in a route itself that go to this path, and whenever you are executing this path, so try to pass what? Try to pass even a student ID. If you are not going to pass a student ID, this function will not be executed. Very, very simple. So here, Control S, right? Control S, it is going to reload in some time. Okay, so, okay, reloaded. Now, after reloading, okay, so after reloading of this, what we can do, so we can try to basically go here. We can try to refresh the Swagger, and now I have a student, and then it is telling you that you have to pass basically student ID. Now click on this, and then if you are going to click on try this out, it is asking you for the input, right? That you have to provide a student ID. If you are not going to provide a student ID, I will not be able to execute this particular function. So here, let's say 45 is a student ID I'm going to give. So execute, and then here, so you will be able to see a response. Now this is the response which I have written. So return is equal to what? Student ID, and then student ID, whatsoever it is going to pass, return it. Simple, right? Simple. So this is how you can try to make it parameterized. If you have to call a same thing from a URL, right? So by default, Swagger is going to create a URL as well. If you have to call it from a cell, so by default, curl it is going to create it for you. So this is the beauty of again a Swagger UI, right? So you don't have to do much. By default, it is trying to do it everything. So for example, here slash student slash 45, hit enter. So student ID is equal to 45. This is something which I'm able to get it, right? Student ID is equal to 45. This is how I can try to pass a value basically from my side. So whatsoever value is required, so I will be able to pass it 2, 3, 10, 15, whatsoever is required. I can try to pass it in a easiest possible manner. So basically, if I have to pass the parameter, this is how you will be able to pass a parameter. Let's talk about a multiple parameter, right? So let's talk about a multiple parameter. So def, and let's say I'm going to create a function called as get LESSON lesson for Euron, right? So here course ID, someone has to pass in an integer format, by the way, and lesson ID, someone has to pass in a integer format, right? Integer format. Now, so once someone is going to pass it, so just try to call the return, and return what? So return maybe like, course ID is equals to, and lesson ID, course ID, and then lesson ID, fine. So it is going to take two parameter. One is a course ID and one is a lesson ID as an input. And then whatsoever you have to do it, do it. I'm just trying to do a return over here. Okay. So let's try to write. So app dot get, and here, so I'm going to write a path where anyone will be able to access it. So course, and then someone has to pass basically to execute this function, right? So to execute this function, so go to the course and then try to pass basically course course underscore ID, same thing that you have written. And then maybe I would like to create a path in this manner. Lesson, lesson slash lesson ID. So maybe you can try to create a path in this manner. So person will try to pass a course ID, then person will try to pass a lesson ID, and then it will be executed. So fine, Control S. Now go to Swagger. So go to Swagger and then try to refresh it. And once you will try to refresh it, so Now here, so this is the path, right? This is the path that we have. And here, so it is asking me for two input, right? So course ID and the lesson ID. So maybe course ID is equals to 34. Try it out. So course ID is equal to 434, and then lesson ID is equal to 23. Execute it, and then it is going to give you course ID and the lesson ID. So this is the total path that you will be able to see where I'm trying to pass course ID and the lesson ID. So likewise, I can try to provide in any manner, right? I can try to provide basically any number of a parameter of my choice. So no one is going to stop me, by the way. Make sense, everyone? Yeah, make sense? Yes. Okay, so simple and easy to understand so far, by the way, before we'll get into a complexity. Now, let's do one thing. So here we can go and course ID, basically, it's been written integer. Let's say I will try to provide SUDH over here. Is it going to work? Yes. Is it going to work? Risa is saying no. What about other? Yes. Is it going to work? Okay, so I have just executed, and please correct the following validation error and try again. For course ID, value must be integer. So here it is trying to consider not just as a notification, right? That we have like understood inside a core Python lectures. So when I'm trying to use a fast API, so here it is going to take it in a very, very serious manner, right? It is going to take it in a very, very serious manner. And yes, it is going to do a validation. Same thing you must be able to see even over here, right? So here you have to pass a proper data type. Now, if you'll go and check inside your console, so it is telling me that 404, I'm not able to find out. Very, very simple. Okay. So this is something that we are able to create multiple path parameter. We are able to give it, right? Now, let's say I'm going to give 34.00. Is it going to work? No, because this is now a floating point number. So at any point of a time, it is going to basically work with a 34. I mean, like, sorry, integer, right? So course ID must be a integer at any point of a time. So basically, it is trying to validate a data type. At least it is trying to validate a data type. I would like to add more validation to my APIs, right? I would like to add a more validation to my API. For example, so I would like to define. So, okay, now do one thing. So let's say I'm going here. Course ID is equals to, try it out. Course ID is equals to -4. Lesson ID is equals to lesson ID is equals to -5. Is it going to work now? Yeah, is it going to work now? So Anu is saying no, Rishabh is saying yes, Vaibhav is saying yes. So -4 is an integer, right? So obviously it is going to work. And then lesson ID is an integer. So obviously it is going to work in both the situation because it is just trying to check a data type. And obviously my data type is correct. -4 is an integer, -5 is an integer. So obviously it is going to work. It is just going to do a data type validation. But my case is beyond this. And again, this topic is and this concept is very important. And maybe I'm assuming that 99% of you must be not aware about it. The things which I'm going to show you now, right? So I'm assuming that almost all of you are not aware about it. So that's my assumption. So here I am trying. Just look at my screen. Look at your screen. You will be able to understand in the next 5 minutes. So here, basically, I have written integer, right? And obviously, it is able to do a validation, right? So it is not trying to consider just as a notification and passing this data to my function, but it is trying to prevent it. It is trying to stop it there itself. Now, when I'm trying to pass this -5, when I'm trying to pass basically, -4 for course ID and lesson ID, In general, it's not an ideal one, right? In general, it's not an ideal one because course ID will never be a minus. Let's say I'm not talking about even a course ID, right? Let's say course ID has been allowed to be in minus, lesson ID has been allowed to be in minus, but age will not be minus, right? Let's say I'm trying to talk about age or something, age will not be minus. So I want a extra validation on my data set as well. So how I will be able to put those extra validation on top of my data set. So let's try to talk about that one as well. So to do this, I have to do an import of couple of things. So I'm importing fast API. Let's try to import something called as path, PATH, path. I'll be using that. And then from TYPING, typing. So try to import IMPORT, import what? ANNO annotated, right? So this is something that I'm going to use it. And this is something new which I'm going to show you. So here from typing import annotated. Now, so let's say I'm going to create a function over here, right? So def get underscore student, fine. Now here, so I want a user of my function. So whosoever is going to call my function via API. So I just wanted to do something like, for example, I get student. Get student means student student underscore ID. Someone has to provide a student ID. So if I'm going to write simply integer, so obviously it will try to check that whether things are integer or not, and then bingo, done. But no, I want this validation beyond this. So instead of writing this integer, what I will do, I will try to call annotated, the import that I have done, right, from typing. And then inside that, I'm going to write that I want this student ID as an integer, right? Integer, which is as a data type. Then there is something called as path, which I have called P capital. And then inside this, I'm going to write GT is equals to 0. So greater than, GT means greater than, then is a GE. So greater than equal to, then there is a lesser than equal to and lesser than. So here inside a path, I'm going to define that it should be integer. So it should be integer inside until I have defined, and then greater than 0. So you can't put a negative data. And then maybe some descriptions I can try to give over here. So description is equals to a student, just a notification that student ID, right? As a string I'm going to give. So this is a new way of doing validation. So where I'm trying to use unrated keyword, sorry, unrated library, and then I'm saying that integer path, and then this student ID should be greater than 0. So this is a new way. Anyone who was aware about this one? Return? No? I told you, right? I'm going to teach you something new. Now everything will be new for you. Most of the things will be new for you. Even if you think that fast API, no. APIs basically. So almost like even tomorrow, whatever I'm going to teach you, sir, that is going to be very, very new. And the must one. So whenever you are going to write something in a production, so obviously you are going to follow the same. So app.get, and let me create a route stud, and yes, so people are going to pass this student ID. So as a parameter. So whenever I'm going to ask for it, so student ID. Okay. Now, so this is a path which I have created and saved. So now it must have reloaded. Let me go and check here. So execute. Now this is a new path I have created, get a student. Now click over here. Now a student ID, right? So integer. I'll try to give basically, try this out. I'll try to give basically minus of 5. Is it going to work now? See, I'm passing integer by the way. Is it going to work? Let's see. Execute. So it has actually sent a request. It's not like it has not sent the request, it has sent the request actually. Means this is the request URL. It is trying to pass the data, right? Pass the data. So it has requested, and then what my server has returned, what my UVcorn has returned, right? So UVcorn has returned 422. I believe this is the error you are looking at for the very first time, right? And what is a meaning of this 422, guys? What I have written over here? Yes, what I've written over here. Validation failed, right? Validation failed basically. So it is able to send a request. I mean, server is receiving the request, and then while it is trying to validate, it is not able to validate as per the requirement that you have given basically, right? So as per the requirement that you have given, my server, my UV is not able to validate it, and it is giving me detail type is equal to greater than location is equals to path student id, right? This is the message input should be greater than 0, right? Your input was -5 ctx. So what is basically a command? So command is basically gt greater than 0, right? So now 422 unprocessable entity, right? So this is a response it is trying to give it to me. Very very simple, right? Very very simple. So, yes, everyone, this is what happens, right? This is what happens uh, basically. So, this is how you will be able to add a layer. So, where on a server side, it is going to do a validation on a server side, basically. So, by the help of this annotation, I'm able to write it down. So, where it is sending data to a server, and then it is able to, uh, you know, uh, basically do something on a server side. Now, similarly, so you can try to create a path. I'm just giving you a sample over here. So you can try to create, let's say, GE. G means, so let's say you are writing G is equal to 1. So G is equal to 1 means greater than equal to 1. This is what it means. So let's say you are writing path is equal to greater than, I have already told you, GT I have already told you. So LE, if you are writing, it simply means that LE, let's suppose, 1000 I'm writing. So lesser than equal to 1000. This is what it means, LE. The other predefined keyword inside path. Annotation, by the way. And then LE, LT. So lesser than equal to. Sorry, LT means lesser than only, right? Lesser than only. So LT, if I'm saying, and LT is equal to 100, so lesser than. So this is how it works. Similar kind of a things you will be able to find out even inside a MongoDB. So when you apply a filter and many other places as well. So GT, LT, LE, all of these things are common even over there. So you can try to write your validation accordingly while doing this kind of a validation at any point of a time. Okay. Now, so here we are able to basically send a data in this particular manner. Yeah. So via path, basically we are able to send the data. That's completely okay. Now here, when I will try to show you how in a different manner you will be able to pass the data. So let's say I'm trying to write a function, uh, def get underscore stud, right? And then someone is expecting, I mean, like this function will be expecting course, basically in a string format, right? Uh, by default, none is equals to none. I'm going to give, and then it will be like this function will be expecting limit. So limit integer. By default, if someone is not going to provide integer limit value, so in that case, it is going to be 10. By default is 10. Rest anyone can provide as a parameter. Then it is going to return. Return what? So it is going to return basically courses is equal to course, right? And limit. Yeah. So this is something that it is supposed to return. Okay, fine. Now here, let me create a route. So app dot get and then slash stude, right? Stude. So this is the path I have created, by the way. Will I be able to call this function if I'm writing in this manner? Will I be able to call this get stud function, stud function? Yes. Tabis is saying no. Okay. What about other people? What do you think? Will I be able to call it? You can say no or yes quickly. Okay, Viresh is saying no. Okay. My question is simple, right, guys? Will I be able to call this function? Okay, Baba is saying no. So those who are saying, sorry, Baba is saying yes. So those who are saying yes, Rishabh is also saying yes. Okay. Tell me how. I mean, this is the path, right? Anu is also saying yes. Okay, fine. So fine, let's do Control S and let's go here, right? STUD, right? STUD. Not found. I'm calling the correct path. See, guys, STUD. This was the path, right? Let me re-verify. Okay, STUDE. Okay, fine. So let's say STUDE. So now here, courses null limit is equals to 10. So here I have mentioned that by default try to take this particular values. So whenever, and by default limit value is equals to 10 in this particular place. Okay, so many people were saying no, I will not be able to call, but I'm able to call it. Yeah, I'm able to basically call it. Now, so calling part is done. Tell me one thing. Courses is equal to null, it is giving me, right? Courses is equal to null because it is taking the default value. How I will be able to pass a course values? Let's say a course value, I would like to pass it as a machine learning. So how I will be able to pass a course value here? Quick, guys, quick. How I will be able to pass a course value? Tell me. Okay, so Baba is saying that a student then question course is equal to ML. Exactly. This is what the answer is, right? So see here, previously you have seen that in a route itself I have defined the placeholder, right? I have defined the placeholder. So anyone who is calling this route, so they will try to just extend that route, put the value, and then your function is going to receive that value and then it is going to execute it. So this is one way. This is something that we have done already. Now here, so if I have to pass a course value, so now what we can do if we have to pass a course value, so I can simply write a question mark over here, right? And then variable name, COURSE. This is the variable name, I believe, COURSE. Yes. So COURSE. This is the variable name. And then after writing this, you can simply write equal to, and after equal to whatsoever you would like to write, just write it down. So let's say I would like to write MSCHINE, machine, LERNING, machine learning. It is going to take it, right? It is going to take it. So my course value is basically machine learning. I have passed in this particular manner. Make sense, everyone? Yeah. So this is how you will be able to pass value machine learning. Let's go to Google and let's try to search machine learning, right? What it does here, Q is equals to machine learning. It is trying to pass this value to a server, to a Google server, right? Rest with the rest of the meta information or information. So in the similar manner, so here I'm trying to pass basically question mark, then course is equal to machine learning, and then it is going to basically work. Let's say I would like to pass courses is equal to machine learning. That's completely fine. Along with that, so I would like to pass even a value of a limit. So how I will be able to pass a value of the limit? By default, value is equals to 10, which has been given. So courses is equals to machine learning. And I can write, so and you should take limit is equals to basically 8, let's say. So courses is equal to machine learning and then limit is equals to 8. It is able to take it. So I can try to pass one value, two value, 10 value, thousand value, hundreds value, whatsoever I want. I will be able to pass it in this particular manner. Is it making sense to all of us? Yeah. Now let's say there's a situation so where I'm going to remove this value. I mean, like I'm going to remove the default value. Is it going to work even in that situation? Let's say I'm going to remove this one. Control S, reload the server. So for courses, there is no default value which I have given, by the way, right? So there is no default value which I have given over here. It has reloaded. It's reloading. Application startup complete. Okay. Now just call the base URL. So it is trying to hit my server. And this is the detail that you are getting. So query course, right? So location. So for like a course, it is expecting something. Input was actually like a null. So this is my value. So when you give a default, so obviously it is going to take like a default. By the way, if you are not giving a default, then it will be expecting something from your side. Now if I'm going to give like here basically, if I'm going to give question mark and after that course course is equals to machine learning, now it is going to work in normal manner, right? It is going to work in a normal manner, by the way. So fine, this is again that we are able to like learn now. So let's say on the same line, right? On the same line, so let's say we are going to do some import. So let me do some import from a fast API itself. Import query. Just import this one, guys. Query. I'm going to show you this. So here, let's say I'm writing some search function. Ser search function I'm going to write. Now this search function is going to need some sort of a keyword, right? So let's say keyword is a parameter which someone is going to provide as a search function, right? And I would like to call annotate over here. So annotate. So I would like to define that what kind of a data you should take. So anyone can enter a string, right? And then here, so I can give a path where lesser than, greater than, equal to, all those things I can try to write. But instead of that, instead of path, I can use query query. Now here I can try to define that what should be your query length. So minimum length basically. So minimum length of the query, let's say I'm giving 2. And then I'm trying to say that max length of your query, so max length of your query is supposed to be 50. So whenever you will go and do a query on Google, so let's suppose if Google has imposed this, you will not be able to go beyond 50 and you will not be able to pass even a string, which is like just a zero. I'm like just a string, right? And then here, this is one of the things that we have to pass. Along with that, so I have to pass basically a limit, right? That how many times you will be able to do a query. So let me try to call annotated, and then with the help of annotated, so I'm going to put a limit over here. So here annotation should be like integer, and then query should follow. So I'm just trying to like call a query itself with the help of query itself. I can try to handle it. So I can say that greater than equal to 1 and then lesser than equal to 100. So more than 100 times you will not be able to query at any point of a time. By default, I'm giving you 10, right? By default, I'm giving you 10. So if you are going to put a limit more than 100, it is going to reject. It should be greater than always equal to 1 and lesser than always equal to 100, right? So if this is the validation that it is supposed to follow. If it is not going to follow, it will not be allowed. So this is a validation which we have written. This is one validation and this is the another validation for two variable keyword and the limit that we are going to write. So after that, return what? So return basically keyword is equals to what? Keyword, and then limit is equals to limit. Control S, and then try to execute it. So here I'm trying to show you a validation, basically input data validation, which is very, very important, because if you're not writing a validation, then anyone can hit your APIs with anything, and then boom, right? So entire system will like go for a toss, by the way. So this is the reason these validations are very, very important. Now let's go to a Swagger UI, and here, so we already have these things. Okay, I have not created the path, by the way, right? So let me create a path over here. At the rate def, sorry, at the rate app dot get, and here, so I can try to create a path SERCH search, control S, inside the string, control S. Okay, so we have a search over here, as you can see, right? And then it is looking for a keyword, and it is good looking for a limiter. Default value is 10 basically, and here you will be able to see the minimum length should be 2 and the maximum length should be 15. So if I'm going to exceed this one, let's say if I'm going to like click on try this out, and if I'm going to write only S, so execute, so value must be at least 2 character, right? So SUDH, if I'm going to write, so obviously this time it is going to allow me. So it is allowing me this one. Along with that, so let's say if I'm going to write some number like this, execute. So only lesser than equal to is allowed. So yes, it is able to follow a proper validation. The validation which I have given, so it is able to follow it. So now I know that how to control the data, right? How to control the data, how to put the validation in between. Okay, so there is a validation we are able to understand, we are able to learn when we are going to pass a data, right? While doing a query or like as a parameter which we are going to pass, right? Now, all of these things are going to happen via get. Get means, so basically you can try to like, send a get request in your browser with a complete query, means in a single string itself at any point of a time, if you have seen and if you have observed the complete execution that we have done, so it was trying to create a complete URL, right? It was trying to create a complete URL over here, and then with the help of this URL it is trying to send the request. Now when I'm trying to send a request and all the data via URL, right, so data is visible to each and everyone. It's visible to everyone. For example, if I'm going to send Google, if I'm going to hit Google, and if I'm going to write machine learning over here, now it is sending a request via this one. So where things are visible to me, is it going to be same in case of if you try to log in into Gmail? Will you be able to see your mail and password inside a URL? No, right? You will not be able to see those information inside the URL. No, it's not encrypted basically. It is encrypted, by the way. By default, it is encrypted. But when it try to send a data, so it is not sending a data via even the encrypted one, you will not be able to see it here. So when it trying to send the data, it is not sending a data through a browser or URL. It is trying to send a data in a secure manner, and that is called as body, right? So with the help of body, now people have started saying has encrypted all those things. Think from the API layer. After that, what security layer you are going to implement, obviously we'll try to implement it, right? So, yeah. So basically, here in a URL, you will be able to see the data that you are trying to send. But again, from an API side, it is creating a URL for everything, right? So just check whatsoever URL so far we have created. Everywhere it was a URL, and everywhere inside the URL, my data was clearly visible to each and every one. Same thing happens in a Google search, but if you will go to a Gmail, or even if you'll try to log into a Euron, you will never be able to see your data inside a browser, your private data, right? Your PII, you will never be able to see see that one inside a URL. So how that is going to happen? Because when I'm trying to log in into some system, so obviously I'm sending a data, email ID and password, right? Let's say. So obviously everyone uses to send their data, right? Their data. So how do we send a data? So are we supposed to send a data in this manner, that send email ID and password here, right? Because in that case, it will be exposed to each and everyone, and it will be visible to everyone. So to encounter that, right? To encounter that, so there is a request called as post request, right? So post always try to send a data in a hidden manner, or you can say as a body it uses to send a data not inside a browser URL, right? So this is what you will be able to see. So let's try to implement this basically a post one. So again, one beautiful things about a post is that it always try to follow up pydentic. Pydentic means a data validation. So I'll try to show you that particular part as well. So from pydentic, pydentic, import what? So import base model, import base models. Just try to import this one, guys, from pydentic, import base model. Everyone, do it. Now here, what I will do, so I will try to write some function, right? So but not a get, by the way, not a get over here, because we know the problem with the get. So what I will do, so I'll write a function, let's say a create, or maybe login function I'm going to create, right? A simple basic login function. So where I'm expecting you to pass your mail ID. Fine. As of now, I'll not encrypt or I'll not do those things. I'm just trying to show you how via body we can do it. Then on top of this, I'll try to add the encryption in a later stage when we will try to do the same thing. So here, let's say, I'm trying to call like a email ID. So I write email ID. And here, or let's say, forget about like a login. I'll try to show you one function with respect to, let's say, create create underscore student student, right? Nt student. Okay. Now here, so I would like to create one student, right? I would like to create one student. Now to create one student, by the way, right? To create one student, so I need a data. I need their name. I need their mail ID. I need their age. I need what kind of a courses that they are trying to purchase or they have gone through. All of this information is something which I need from like their side. So how I will be able to get this data? Obviously, I can write a function in this manner and I can try to use a get. So I can try to pass all of those information. But no, I don't want to pass those information via URL, right? Via header, by the way. I would like to pass those information in a secured manner, right? All of these information. So I have to create a different kind of a method or function. I have to create different kind of function. I have to create it. What kind of function? So let's do it. A post one. Now, in case of post, there is a requirement that it must be data must be a validated one. What does that mean? So here we will write class, let's say student, class student, right? S is capital, and then it is trying to inherit base model, the import that we have done. Now here, what I will do, I'll write name. Name should be str, right? Name should be str. I will write email. Email. Email should be str. I will try to write age over here. Age should be integer. I will try to write basically COURSES courses over here. COURSES courses, and courses must be STR, right? So, okay, this is not required, this is not required, this is not required. Fine. So I have written one class, right? I have written one class and I have written all of these variables name, email, age, and courses. Now, what this class is trying to do, so this class is trying to inherit the property of a base model. Now, what this base model class is, by the way, so abstract uses documentation model, a base class for creating a pydentic model. Just read out the documentation. So what is the meaning of this pydentic, by the way? So here, base class is basically an abstract, right? Kind of abstract class. So it is going to help you out in terms of passing a bulk of information. For example, name, email ID, age, courses, each and everything, right? And it will help you out even in terms of doing a validation, right? So just create a class. I have written all this for how I will be able to use it. So here I will try to create one variable called stud, and stud is what? Stud is basically student. So I'm going to say stud is equal to student. This variable should follow this, and this is what? A class. In this class, what I have done with the help of this base model, so name, email ID, courses. So technically this function will be looking for four things: name, email ID, age, and courses at any point of a time, right? You have to provide all of this detail, right? All of this detail you have to provide. And this is the bare minimum for post method. So here I'm going to write app.post post, and then I'm going to create the route, right? That, create stud. So this is my route, right? Create stud is something which I have created. And then, once someone is going to pass a data, all of this data, name, email ID, age, and courses and everything. So yes, it will be inside this function. I'll just try to return the same thing, right? Return. So return what? So return, like, a message. Let's say hard coded message I'm going to return. A student created. This is a hard coded message, nothing coming from above, right? And then I'm going to return stud. Stud is equals to what? So whatsoever data is coming here, stud is equals to stud, or student. Student is nothing but this one. So whatever data I'm receiving here, I'm just trying to print those data, return those data, right? Very, very simple. So now I'm trying to show you that how you can use a post method. What is a bare minimum requirement? Without this, post method will not be allowed. So post method should always follow the pydentic, and this is pydentic, by the way, where you create a separate class, you just write a validation over there, and then eventually you can try to use it anywhere you want, right? Okay, so now we have to execute this function. So how I will be able to execute this function? So now to execute this function, so let's go to my Swagger. And here, so as you can see, it is labeling it as a post, right? Create a student. Now, once I'm going to click on create a student and then try it out, so then it is giving me this body. So this time it is not giving me this box kind of a things, right? Box kind of a things. This time it is giving me this body that you have to provide name, email ID, age, and courses, right? This is the default one. So you have to replace this with your value. So basically you have to provide name is equal to SUDH, email ID is equals to SUDH at the rate gmail.com, age is equals to, let's say, 20, and then course is equals to, let's say, ML. So this is something that you are supposed to provide and execute, right? And execute. So once you are going to execute, so detail JSON validation, what happened? Body 18 invalid, control character at. Everything is fine, right? So create a student has been so unprocessable entity. So it is not able to validate it. Wow. Somewhere I have missed something. Oh, okay. This quotation is having a problem. It should work with double quote as well, by the way, guys. This is not an issue. Hmm. Courses. So there's a issue with the why it is showing me the issue. COURSES. Yes. Execute. Body 78 JSON decode error. Yeah, I mean, I told you, right? So double code was not an issue. It is working basically. So message student created and then student. So these are the detail which I have passed. So it is able to show it to me, right? So here response body, and it is trying not to send a data. As you can see, this is my URL, right? So it is not sending a data in a URL, by the way. It is trying to send a data as a body. So no one will be able to see a data, right? No one will be able to see a data, or no one will be even able to pass a data via URL. So you can't test it via URL, by the way. Yes, you can use a curl and then you will be able to test it, you will be able to use a tool called as Postman or something like that, and then only you will be able to use it. But yes, not via URL. So here I'm able to send it. Now, if I'm going to send a wrong data, for example, instead of like, age as an integer, so if I'm going to make it like floating point number and execute, so I will be, or I must be able to see some, um, I'm writing age equal to Sudh. Integer parsing. So body age input should be valid integer, unable to pass the string as an integer. So input is equal to Sudh. So yes, it is able to give me a correct error message. Now here I'm going to pass like 34.56. So this is basically the age which I'm trying to pass. Now here, so again 34.56. So it is able to do a validation. So this validation is coming from where? So this validation is coming from my pydentic. So here I have written age should be like integer. So it should be integer at any point of a time. Yes, everyone. Anyone is facing issue in a connectivity? I think I'm audible and visible to all of you, right? Yeah, okay. Cool. Okay, so this is how we are able to create a post, by the way, right? This is how we are able to create a post over here. Now, so when we are talking about a validation, so here we have written just a data type validation. But it's not just a data type validation. I can try to write a validation for anything and everything, and which this is what I'm going to show you. So here, class student, instead of creating class student, I will create class, let's say, new student, right? This is the new name which I have given. Name, email ID, age, and courses. Now I have to write additional validation on top of this one. So here, anyone, even now, can pass a blank string. So let's say I'll go here and I'll remove this Rahul guy and I will try to pass this blank string. Sorry, let me remove this one as well. Otherwise, it will not pass the integer validation. Okay. So now here, so if I'm trying to pass basically name as blank, it is allowing, right? 200. Response is 200. So that's not good, by the way, right? That's not good. If someone is going to pass some valid string, but let's say if someone is going to pass not a valid, uh, email ID, again, it is not going to like give any kind of objection. So I have to handle all of this situation. So I have to write more and more validation, the way we were writing validation for above, right? So let's try to write a validation. And again, so basically this pydentic provides you lots of validation from its own side. So here we have done import of basically pydentic. So base model import is done. There is something called as email str. I can try to import that as well. There is something called as field. I can try to import that as well. So this import, let's say I have done. Now here, so class new student, I'm trying to write. What happened? Okay. So class new student I'm trying to write and name is equals to str. Now here, so I'm going to put a restriction that str and it should be equal to, and I'm going to call this FEILD field F capital FEI FIELD. Yes, FIELD. And then I'm going to define the minimum length. So this will be a parameter. So minimum length should be 2. And then max length is basically what? So max length is equals to, let's say, 200. I'm allowing, right? Now, email wise, so I can simply call instead of str, email str, I can try to call. So for email, there can be a lot of permutation combination. You don't have to worry about it. Pydentic, inside Pydentic, people have already written those libraries. So you can chill out and then you can simply, call this email str, and by default, it will be able to do a validation for all the emails. So your life is easy, by the way. People have made your life basically easy. Age should be integer and it should be equal to, and then I can write a FIELD field over here, and then I can try to write that it should be greater than equal to 16 year and then lesser than equal to 100 year, let's say. So that is my age validation. Then course validation. So course validation FEILD, capital FEILD. Again, why I'm doing this? Field, yes. And then minimum length. Minimum length is equals to like 2, and then basically maximum length is equals to what? Maximum length is equals to, let's say I have given like 500 would be the course. So here you can see that I'm able to write a additional validation, right? I'm able to write basically a additional validation over here, and it is going to validate for me, right? It is going to technically validate for me. So I'll try to call the same over here, and then I can try to write here. So create a student. Let's say I'm writing like create a student new. This is my new route, and this class identity I'm going to change it new student equal new student so that it can follow this control s and then bingo. Right, control s and then bingo. So here in this way I'm able to write a validation. Now if I'll go and test it, so let me update my swagger. It's restarting. Okay, so create a student new, this one, click on this one, and then when I'm going to click on this, try this out from here. So name is equals to, let's say, SUDH, right? And here email ID is this, courses is equals to ML. This is what I have given. This is what I have given. So execute. Now let's see. So everything looks fine, right? So age, course, ML, all of these things, it looks fine. Now let's say with email, I'm going to make certain mistakes. So here, I'm just going to pass a string, by the way, right? I'm going to pass a string, execute. So here I have just passed a string for email. So value is not valid email address, and email address must have at the rate sign. So this is something that it is able to validate by itself, right? By itself. So okay, I can try to write like a user at the rate user at the rate user. So now let's try to execute it. So value is not valid email address, the part after the sign content invalid character at the rate. So yeah, it is able to do a validation. So I have just called what? I have just called a email str, right? Email str, and I don't have to write some additional validation over here. It is like, able to do it by itself. So is it making sense, guys? The validation part, which is making our life easy. So this is basically a pydentic class. New student is my pydentic class. Hope all of you are able to understand it. Yes. Yeah. So, hope all of you have learned something new. All of you have enjoyed this class in a very, very clean way. I'm trying to explain you, like, the practical approach of writing an API. We'll try to even discuss a very, very advanced way, right? Obviously, like, if not tomorrow, then in next class, because this part is very important. And generally, when you see this kind of a code, right, you feel scared that, okay, wow, I've never seen this kind of a code. What has been written over here? And that kind of a code sometime brings down your like confidence. So once you will be able to see it, I think you will never feel like scared when you will see this kind of a code generated by AI at all. Likewise, so many complex things we have to do. So in tomorrow's as per the material that I have prepared, so I have like included so much of complexity in this one. So much means literally so much of complexity in a API section. So I will try to discuss about those things tomorrow and then beyond. So in a post, we have to use Pydantic and forget annotated. Yes, you have to use that. Okay, so that's it from my side, guys. If you have any kind of a question, so you can put those questions or maybe raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll conclude the class for today. And again, we have a class tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. IST. You are going to cover Postman as well. Postman is just a tool. There is nothing to cover in Postman. Download a Postman and then select the method, select the body, and then it's done. The way I'm doing it in a curl, or the way I'm doing it inside a this one, like so there is nothing to teach in Postman. It's day-to-day tool that we all use it. Is this become norm? People using REST API for everything? I mean, yes, not for everything. Obviously, like there are multiple ways to create APIs, under API. So there are multiple way of communication. For example, SOAP is available, gRPC is available. So likewise, there are so many things is available. So as per the requirement, we try to pick and choose. Yeah. Okay, so fine, everyone. With that, thank you so much. Take care. Raj raised his hand. Yeah, Raj, go ahead. What is your question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to understand,
Hmm.
generally on the login page, when user provide the username or password. So
Hmm.
generally, I think on the HTML side or JavaScript side, we put those kind of validations, right?
So JavaScript again like provide you some sort of a framework for doing it. JavaScript is a language. Inside that there are so many frameworks which is available. Python is a language. FastAPI is a framework that we are using.
So JavaScript or Node.js, those kind of, I mean, those frameworks are using REST API underneath, or how it is
Yeah, I
like?
mean, see, REST API, you are going to use it, or you are going to use it gRPC, or you are going to basically use it as SOAP or GraphQL, or WebSocket. That depends upon the app or webhook. So that depends upon the application that you are trying to build at any point of a time. For example, if I'm trying to build maybe a chat application, so at that point of a time, what I will do, I'll try to use WebSocket, not a REST API.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that you mentioned in the system design as well.
Exactly. For example, if I'm trying to use, let's say, the IoT, right? IoT devices, and I'm trying to stream something from there. So I would prefer to use what? MQTT, not a REST API over there. So every API system has been designed to serve a particular purposes. So it's not like everywhere you will go and use it. When it comes to a JavaScript or Node.js, it's just either a programming language or a framework. Nothing more than that. What technology I'm going to use it under the hood, that will be my choice, my decision, and that comes from my application which I'm trying to build.
Yeah, yeah. My confusion is like in the JavaScript or the Node.js, the validation they
First,
are
talk about
doing.
Python. Let's talk about Python because you are confused with JavaScript. You don't know JavaScript maybe in a proper manner, and
Hmm.
all the framework which comes into JavaScript, right? Let's
Hmm.
take an example of Python, which you understand, right? And then ask me question. Maybe I'll give you will be having a more clarity on that.
Yeah, so I mean, Python generally we will be using for the backend, right?
Yes,
So,
Python you can use it for everything, even for a front end. But the problem is that
hmm,
Python is not having a library which is going to give you a kind of a luxurious, I would say, UI look and feel, or from a user responsiveness side, a kind of a UI which you will be able to get it from a JavaScript framework. Again, JavaScript is a programming language. So if I'm going to use a React, if I'm going to use maybe a like a Express or something, so that this is where I will be able to create beautiful UI interface. They give you more flexibility.
right, right. So suppose whatever the, I mean, one UI we have created, I mean, a simple one using the
Hmm.
Python, right? Any kind
Yes,
of framework.
Streamlit basically.
Yes, Streamlit, let's say, and the validation we are putting there,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So that will be, I mean, somehow interlinked with a REST, I mean, any kind of API, or that
You
is
can do a
separate.
validation on a you can do a validation on a client side as well as you can do a validation on a server side. So you can try to do a validation in a form from a Streamlit side itself. Let's say you have created a UI on a Streamlit, right? Even there on a client side itself, you can do a validation. That is also possible and allowed inside a library. If you would like to do a validation on a server side, that whatever user is sending, let them send, and then you are writing a validation on your backend side, which is the API side, right? So
Hmm.
you can write a validation. So it
So
will be
this
again
backend or API side is nothing but the server side
so I
validation,
mean,
right?
like yes, backend API and this is server basically.
Okay. The
Yeah,
front end will be different. I mean, simply some
exactly. So
conditioning.
even over here, so what server we are using? UVCon server we are using, right? So UVCon
Hmm.
server is basically been used and built to run the fast API or
Right.
like fast API or kind of a Pythonic framework. So where it you can build an application with the help of Pythonic framework, Flask or something, and then UVCon is going to help you out to keep on running that system on some port continuously.
So ideally in a system, real-time system, we do this validation on both the side, client side and server side, both the side,
It
or
depends. It depends on what kind of a system I'm designing.
okay.
Right. It depends. If I have written like some validation already over there, it's working. It's working. Why I should go and test those validations and why I should write like a double validations?
Okay. I mean, it will be mix and match, or it could be
It
either.
will be it will be a designer's like a choice basically. Right. It will be a designer choice. On a server, I should not send a data, so which is basically like harmful for my server, or anyone can come and do some sort of a DDoS attack with respect to my server. So again, I have to prevent that things. So it depends upon the design basically. It will be like designer's choice.
Understood. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so fine everyone. With that, thank you so much. Take care, everyone, and see you again tomorrow, same time. Topic is going to be same continuation of the APIs with some advanced things. Thank you so much. Take care.